In this playthrough, I can only use what these menacing giants drop on the ground for me, and considering they don't respawn, we're going to be at the mercy of Lady Luck. Alright, starting off the journey, we're skipping through the tutorial phase, and I chose the Hunter class because its stats are pretty good for this particular challenge. Now, before catching a flight to Farling Shrine, I made sure to drop all the weapons and armor I started with. This is something I'll be doing for the entire playthrough, as I need the Black Knights to understand my dedication. No distractions, brothers. The few souls I got from the Asylum, I pumped into Dexterity. It's a minor head start, but unlike the previous Crystal-only challenge, there won't be any major soul farming grinds in this one, which is lovely. There's other things we have to farm for later on, using methods I've not done in many years, if ever before. When I started this challenge, I just had an overall goal and a few different strategies in the back of my mind, and one of them involved hopping down the elevator shafts to pick up the Lloyd's talismans on the cliffside here. So when we get to the relevant section later on, I'll point out what my plan with these was going to be, but in the end I did something else instead. For now, the plan is to focus on finding some humanity. One at the entrance to Undead Burg, one in a hidden cave in the Valley of the Drakes, which I went to early, and I'll be coming back for you later. Obviously, I'm not fighting anything yet, because, well, look at me. Super early, I know, but I'm actually going back to the Asylum. Yes. Now in the Asylum, there happens to be these undead zombies with flaming torches, and they are absolutely mega annoying. Once I had eventually cleared the ones closest to me, I tried to initiate a trade with Snuggly the Crow. I dropped the Ring of Sacrifice on the nest and then quit out. But when I reloaded, my item had gone, and there was no item in exchange. The trade hadn't worked. This is because I'm an idiot, and I thought if I gave a Ring of Sacrifice, she would offer a humanity. But when you look at this table, it's actually the complete opposite. I think now is a great time to get our first weapon. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, item discovery. This improves the chance for enemies to drop items, and in this game it's a visible stat. But why even care about item discovery? Well, quite simply, there's 7 Black Knights in Dark Souls, excluding the Kiln, and they don't respawn. If this first Black Knight doesn't drop its weapon, I'm honestly going to restart the entire run from scratch. So that should explain to you how important this is. I obviously want to make sure I have a decent chance at getting the drop. So one of the ways we can raise our item discovery is by consuming humanity. The more humanity, the better. The base chance this Sword Knight drops his weapon is 20%, and 5% for the shield. Now, even the wiki says the exact mechanics of item discovery are not fully understood. We don't have access to everything behind the scenes, but here's my educated guess. 6 humanity gives me 186 item discovery, which improves my chances from 20% to roughly 37%. Still not great odds, but I think it's worth a try. I first tested to see if the Black Knight would actually follow me off the stairs, and he did. So I saved and quit to reset everything before he died. Now I have the confidence to jump back down and try this luring method for real. So this is the moment. I popped all the humanity I had been collecting. It's kind of hard at this stage to get more, so I only had 6. And the first attempt went abysmally. We're not even going to talk about it. Second attempt almost went just as bad, but somehow we landed in the right spot. But the Black Knight de-aggroed this time. So for the third time, I set it up again, this time luring him past the fall into the tower before doubling back to the drop zone. This worked like a charm, and I'm happy to say, we got the sword. Thank Gwyn, the RNG blessed us today. Gwyn always valued his Black Knights, especially fighting the Chaos Demons. They all fought to the bitter end in service to their lord. Surely, it meant something. You might be wondering why I chose Black Knights for this video. Well, did you know the Dark Souls creator himself, Miyazaki, said that the design was so iconic it helped them promote the game? From Dark Souls to Elden Ring, the attention to detail and fresh design work is top-notch, and maybe you want to incorporate a bit of that design in your own life. There's a streetwear brand that plays quality games like Elden Ring, Sekiro, and of course Dark Souls, and then makes inspired clothing from these iconic visuals. I've worn Project Orochi clothing for years, and they're a great fit for the channel. They're made by players, for players, and they make quality stuff. What I love about this is how most people won't even realize it's gaming merch unless they actually praise the sun. Obviously I'm biased, as Night Solaire inspired my whole channel, but I think this minimal sun design is really nice, and it's French, so it's fancy. They have loads of new designs from all sorts of titles, and the best part is these are made from heavyweight cotton that actually feels good. They have a Discord community, which is the easiest way to get in touch with them and even find yourself some gaming buddies. So if you've been waiting to upgrade your wardrobe, now is the absolute best time to do so, because this Black Friday event will be their biggest sale ever. The event is running from November 24th to the 28th, where you can get up to 40% off their items. It's the best time to grab a shirt and join a covenant. The link's in the description. This is the weakest Black Knight weapon, technically, with the lowest requirements, but we still don't have high enough levels to use it yet. With just enough souls left over to reach 18 dexterity, I still don't quite reach the strength requirement of 20. In Dark Souls, you can use a weapon in two hands if you have at least 67% of the strength needed, so I need to level up at least one more time. Thus commences a bit of soul farming, not much though. During this time, I received a 1% chance drop, the Hollow Warrior Waistcloth, and I took this as a lucky sign. I made the executive decision to make one single armor exception for this run, and honestly it was nothing to do with the rarity, it was more so that I couldn't face staring at dehydrated, shriveled, undead butt cheeks for hours on end again, so we're allowing the exception of the Hollow Warrior Waistcloth until we get Black Knight armor. This provided a sliver of modesty, and also made me laugh every time I saw the one shoe off and one shoe on situation. And suddenly we are a force to be reckoned with. Even the lowliest Black Knight weapon is powerful in the early game, and the special attacks are over the top and absolutely devastating. Not to say we can get overconfident though, even the weakest enemy will stagger me every time. However, now we have a weapon, we're cleared for a boss attempt, and I'll be going for the Taurus Demon while making sure to pick off any crystal lizards along the way. We can use one of the coolest perks this weapon has to offer, the Demon Auxiliary Effect. All Black Knight weapons have a Demon Auxiliary Effect, which is 20% more damage to demons. And guess what? This boss is a demon.
Wow.
We are now continuing all the way down the Spiral Watchtower to smack Havel the Rock, and that's pretty much just so I can hold on to the Havel Ring for later when I have bigger and heavier weapons. Rings will be an exception to the no armor rule, just because you can't see them, who knows what rings the Black Knights had, and you have to use rings at certain times in this game, so I just don't worry about it. My dexterity is capped now for this run, it's going to stay at 18 forever. It's just strength we need to add to for requirements, because the weapons do get a bit more large after this one. That means I can now one-hand the sword. Not really any advantage to doing that, but I guess I can pull out some hot stuff like this. I'm also a Vagrant Whisperer now, by the way. Look who showed up after I took out the Berenike Knight. Another one of these mysterious little guys. But honestly, this is nothing. Wait till you see the Vagrant I bump into later. It's in a ridiculous area I had no idea they could even be in. I'll say no more. Since we're in the Undead Parish, it's time to clear out the rooftop gargoyles. The second gargoyle arrives with half health and no helmet. Is it injured or just a younger gargoyle type? I mean, it's also missing a tail, so maybe that's why. Could it have been fighting Knight Lautrec locked up beneath us? His show tails do look pretty good at cutting off things. But anyway, I cut them down to size, and even got the gargoyle halberd, which I dropped on the floor. The Twin Humanities, on the other hand, is a keep for sure. Speaking of Lautrec, he's moved to Firelink, and I know he would appreciate a closer look at my new Black Knight sword. 5 Humanity is a lovely sight to see this early on, especially in a run that relies so heavily on item discovery. And I won't be wearing the ring for now, but it's always good to have for later in case we get stuck. I chose the Master Key as my starting gift. It's basically a muscle memory choice, to be honest, but it allows us easy access to Blighttown once we get past the barbarian fatties. Just beat the dung out of them.
Why are you running?
24 strength now. Remember, everything else is still base except for our dexterity. But still, it's only the Chaos Witch next, and she's a demon, so my demon auxiliary effect should make this a cakewalk. Okay, maybe not a cakewalk, but sticking to the basics, staying close to her main body neutralizes a bunch of her attacks, and then you just have to keep an eye out for the fire explosion. This second attempt was the one. I took it down with a nice 3-piece combo, which gives us another twin humanity and the freedom to ring the second bell. The bosses are going down pretty well so far, but that's expected. But there's definitely going to be challenges coming up, let me tell you. I have no plans to join the Chaos Servants, but I visited the other Daughter of Chaos anyway, but I accidentally chose the wrong dialogue option when speaking to her servant, so he had to go. She felt pity for him and sucked out his infected pus, and that's why she's so sick.
It hurts. I am afraid.
And on that happy note, let's move back to Frampt to witness the funniest icon in all Souls games. If you choose to feed Frampt items in exchange for souls, this is genuinely the menu icon for that process. I'm not joking, it's actually that beautiful and stunning in-game. Sen's Fortress is now accessible, so let's just go in there. At the start of the playthrough, I mentioned picking up Lloyd's talismans for a future plan. Well, they were going to be used right here, to farm this mimic chest for the symbol of avarice. Ultimately, I decided instead it would be far simpler and more practical to go for the covetous gold serpent ring, which is located in the same area. Down this ladder is a hole, and if you turn the boulder directing device the right way, you'll eventually fill up the hole, opening up a secret room. And here is where we find the gold serpent ring, which increases item discovery by 200, the exact same as the mimic head, but without the obvious downsides. Moving on up to the upper levels, I've got enough souls for 32 strength, and I will be maxing out completely at 36. That's the strength requirement of the larger Black Knight weapon types, so soon after that, leveling won't be a concern at all. I'm sure we've all used this cage to traverse levels before, and initially it is locked, so past the crestfallen merchant, down the bottom of his tower, you can pick up the cage key. And with that big unlock, we now have a quick route down to the entrance of Sen's Fortress, and I'm using it to head back to the Undead Parish to the other spiral tower with a Black Knight at the top. This one has the Black Knight Greatsword, the big brother of our current sword, and since I now have the Gold Serpent Ring, I figured it was worth a shot. Although keep in mind, we do only get one shot because it won't respawn. Well, I was unlucky. I had foolishly been hoping I wouldn't have to use my humanity reserve so early, but this setback made me reassess my approach. I really wanted a weapon upgrade before Anor Londo, so I backtracked to the Darkroot Basin because down there is a Black Knight with the halberd that we ran past earlier. And the Black Knight halberd is well known in some circles to be objectively the best Black Knight weapon there is. If you ask me, there's another one I personally prefer, but we'll get to that soon. This time, I was taking no chances. I made sure I was wearing the Gold Serpent Ring, and I used 10 of my precious humanity. I even made sure to finish the kill in style with a charged up heavy attack, so this was the greatest chance I could possibly have. I did not give up here. This is a big moment because I haven't unlocked teleporting yet, which means however deep I go, I'll have to come up the same amount on foot. And doing this with basically zero poise and base health is a bit stressful to say the least. I mean, I get blood loss in 2 hits. I was really hoping it wouldn't come to this. Of course, I'm going to use the quicker method of rolling down the cliff to skip most of this. That's the thing, getting down here is kinda easy, it's just getting out is a pain. Once you get to the bottom of the ravine, there's a cave, which I'm just above right now, trying to fight off these two invincible skeletons, and I don't want to lose my precious humanity. In the end, I just went for it. This is the Black Knight cave, but of course, this has to be the one time where he's wandered off somewhere. And now I have to risk the bone wheel slaughter to look for him. Right next to an undead mage and his skeleton crew, it's just about the worst ambush you could ask for. But don't worry, it gets worse. Next time I thought maybe I'd try and not do the cliff shortcut and approach the Black Knight from the bottom instead. But that was unrealistic. It was never going to happen at this level with no poise, with the monstrous bone wheels and roaming skeletons. So that second death means I lost the humanity. And honestly, I did in real life as well. I went back to the shortcut with no humanity at all, and this time I was smarter. I lured both the skeletons outside before sprinting back to the room. Safe to say, I was pretty happy with this result. 0 humanity, by the way. This was around a 40% chance with just the ring on, so it's honestly amazing to see the Great Axe drop. This is genuinely my personal favourite Black Knight weapon of all time, and one of my favourite weapons from the Souls games, period. I just have so many good memories of fighting in Ulasil and the forest with this absolute beast. I love how weighty it is and how much effort is put into swinging this giant axe. I don't quite have enough strength to one-hand it, but two-handing is absolutely fine, and obviously that means I can do the strong attack, which is just sublime. Alright, now the run's saved, we can make our way back to Sen's Fortress and complete it. Now this time I did want to knock the golem off the side to his death. I normally don't use that method, but when you have a weapon this large, it just comes with some big knight energy. However, he was just barely clinging on, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way. A lot of bonking. His defense is so high, it's like kicking rocks. With victory achieved, it's time for an amazing view ahead. Anor Londo, built as the shining capital of Lordran, owned and ruled by Lord Gwyn in the past. Some say he abandoned Anor Londo and his trusted knights by throwing himself into the kiln. I didn't want to be fat rolling this playthrough, so I put a few points into endurance, which didn't help. The axe is just too heavy. The first major encounter then is a gargoyle. After I killed it, it was dropping gargoyle stuff, which I immediately threw on the ground. And that reminded me, I had rings. I put on Havel's ring that we got earlier, which raised my equipment low just enough that I could fast roll again. You could see this pleased me because of my happy jiggle dance. These Silver Knights were technically the original. They were loyal warriors who fought the Chaos Demons back in Izalith, and during this war, they were charred black. So in a way, they are the greatest variant of these Silver Knights. However, that doesn't mean the rules are now going to change. I said Black Knight only, and I meant it. So the silver armor has got to go. Turns out the demon auxiliary effect works on Batwing demons, so that'll teach them for helping me fly to Anor Londo. I've always thought it's quite sad that the giant blacksmith has no name. He helpfully upgraded my weapon to +3, which I decided I would make the upgrade limit for this challenge run. Just in time, because it's Big Smo and Little Ornstein up next. In my last challenge run, these two were an absolute nightmare for me, but luckily this time I don't have to worry about my weapons breaking. So I didn't have a time and resource limit, I could just focus on the fight itself with no distractions. That might make you think I beat them first time, but that's unfortunately not the case. I did get to the second phase first try though, which is a great sign. And then the second death was like a cartoon. Absolutely amazing comedic timing. At this point I felt I might as well kindle the bonfire up. Now I didn't actually finish the catacombs when I went down there for the great axe, so I don't have the right of kindling yet. But you can always kindle a bonfire one time in exchange for humanity.
Brilliant, that's good. Yeah, that's fantastic. Really good news.
It's always gutting when you mess it up at the last moment. However, the next attempt went almost perfectly, and I showed Smo who the real heavy hitter is. Now that's a major achievement for this run, but we're not done yet. Now we own the Lord Vessel, we've unlocked the ability to warp across the world so we can go anywhere. How about an indoor climbing adventure in the Great Hollow? Perhaps a seaside retreat at Ash Lake? Definitely not. We still have unfinished business in the catacombs. I haven't even placed the Lord Vessel yet, and I'm already on my way to ruin Pinwheel's day. I'm telling you, this weapon changes you in ways you couldn't even imagine. You realize how nothing in this game could possibly be a threat to you. You realize you are truly becoming the Black Knight of legend. This is why no animals evolved with wheels. Anyways, I figured out a pretty good way to deal with the bone wheel skeletons, which are always going to be a threat when you have low poise. But now we've cleared a pathway and it's time to put this axe to work. Pinwheel is often mocked as the weakest boss in the game, but there is one scary potential move he could do depending on how the fight goes. When Pinwheel drops below 30% health, any clones currently in the room will vanish. Immediately after, Pinwheel summons all 8 clones simultaneously. And if he wasn't so pathetic, that would actually be a really cool and dangerous move. But alas, he kinda does live up to his reputation. Now I have the right of kindling, so I can improve all my bonfires. Okay, this Pinwheel bullying has to stop. Now's a good time to head back to Firelink Altar and place the Lord Vessel, because we pretty much have to. I wanted to continue on down from the catacombs into the Tomb of the Giants. The only issue is, as soon as I entered, I missed the bridge and fell into the darkness within like 5 seconds. Now, this is the one part of the playthrough I forgot to record something, so apologies for that. But on my way here, I had killed all the undead necromancers, and if you do that, the last one is guaranteed to drop a skull lantern. Technically, Black Knights don't use light sources as far as I know, so this should be off limits, but I just don't think it's nice from a viewing perspective, so I decided to use the skull lantern this time. And hey, if you really want a no light source run, I did it before with the crystal playthrough. So here we are, surrounded by giant skeletons. This is the first bonfire, but here's the thing, there's actually another Black Knight down here with us. You might never have seen him before. But there's a Black Knight with a halberd just past the fog gate halfway down. I was prepared for this and preemptively consumed my last 4 humanities to raise my item discovery again. It actually dropped. Honestly, this is just the universe restoring balance, because the fact that I didn't get it in the Darkroot Basin before is criminal. So I was feeling great at this point. It felt like the challenge run is finally coming together. I was feeling so confident, in fact, that I didn't even bother getting the second bonfire in Tomb of the Giants. I just went straight into the tunnel towards the boss. But for some reason, I actually thought I would kill Gravelord Nito on the first try. But my friends, Nito is the Lord of Death for a reason. He's one of the 4 Lord Souls and therefore a mandatory boss fight. You drop in and lose half your health instantly, and then there's a high chance that Nito immediately screams and casts his Gravelord Dance miracle, impaling from underground before you can do anything, and because I have no defense, I instantly get toxic. Nito's variant is pretty bad. It deals 8 damage a second for a grand total of 4,800 damage. And so just to remind you, my total health is less than 600. The Bone Zone is pretty scary. And there's also the run back every single time. A pleasant, scenic tour of pitch black darkness, giant skeleton worms, giant skeletons, literal pinwheel boss snipers, and then you have to take the full damage, and then after all that explode into a giant pile of bones. So I started thinking tactically. I went to New Londo to get a Firekeeper soul and upgrade the Estus. I have no humanity left for obvious reasons, and I need more Estus charges. Luckily, I'm in one of the best humanity farming locations in the game, and it's one I've been running past every single attempt. This nightmare fuel is a skeleton baby. Their hobbies include being creepy, lunging at passers-by, inflicting toxic, being gross, and dropping humanity quite consistently. In fact, they respawn so fast that the humanity they drop also disappears very quickly, like within 2 seconds, so you have to be very quick at picking it up. In many ways, it's actually quite a peaceful farming method as long as you ignore the ethics. With my back to a wall and wide sweeping attacks, these babies practically farm themselves. With these glorious humanity reserves, we can upgrade the bonfire. I was hoping that more healing would let me outlive the toxicity. The next attempt made me excited because I dodged a sword thrust with insane perfect timing. It's weird, I never would have expected this to be the roadblock, but then again, every challenge run has to have a challenge, and sometimes it's just hard to predict where that challenge will come from. I traded my Skull Lantern because at this point, I can do the second half of the Tomb of the Giants with my eyes closed, so we don't need this anymore. The Crow exchanges the lantern for a Ring of Fog. I'm hoping the skeletons can't see me, and then I can just 1v1 Nito. That's the plan, let's see if it works out. I dropped into the boss room and didn't move. And Nito actually moved all the way over before any of the skeletons, which never happens normally. One-on-one, the difference is incredible. Clearly the strategy was working, but something wasn't quite right. Somehow the skeletons were starting to notice me. In every subsequent attempt, they eventually ended up hearing me. So here comes the second idea, going back to Sen's Fortress using the handy dandy shortcut and searching the mid-levels for a ring that pairs well together. That's right, it's the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring. With this ring, we produce no sound. Our movements are completely silent. With the Ring of Fog, it allows us to be almost undetectable. I need them to not hear me, not see me, and stay way over there. And ladies and gentlemen, after a dozen of attempts, this strategy looks like it works. It actually works like a charm. What I did was position down the right hand side, that way I have more room to run back and forth, and my camouflage works just fine from this range. My path, thankfully, does not end trapped as a Gravelord servant. We're getting out of here. And now it's time to go and tend to our Darkroot garden. So far we have a Black Knight sword, Black Knight halberd, and a +3 great axe, which I want to say is not bad going considering they're all in the hands of fate. And also those stealth rings were a one-time use, so they are off the table for the rest of this challenge. It would be rude not to pay our respects at the grave of Artorias, and take on the great Grey Wolf Sif as well. Compared to the nightmare of Nito, this will be a walk in the forest. Really, he's just a good boy, isn't he? In fact, let's just fast forward because it's hard to see the screen through the tears. As we all know, once he starts limping, the boss fight gets infinitely harder. Okay everyone, you can look back now. The fight's over and we have the Covenant of Artorias. However, did you really think we were just going to move on without trying out one single forest invasion? I watched the host fight the guy who was already there, and he basically won with backstabs, which is pretty common. So I went for a defensive style, throwing out lots of kicks to stop him sprinting around behind me. I kept my back to the wall as well, that's quite an underrated strategy. At one point I even switched to one hand to try and pull off a parry. Didn't work. But anyways, in the end he missed the parry timing and took a great axe to the cranium. Nice to see the forest traditions still being respected, so shout out to that guy. Next up is New Londo Ruins, which is very cold and very wet. The former citizens are now spirits that cannot be harmed by normal physical means. And as if this wonderful axe needed any more compliments, the one-handed horizontal swings are so convenient, especially in the ghost ambush room before the ladder. Anyway, let's drain the swamp.
This is the key to the seal.
And now we have some prime new beachfront property ready for development. Let's head down and take a look. I'm sorry, I know I said no more fog ring, but I have to know. Okay, now I know. In the depths of the abyss is the next Lord Soul, and as this message near the fog door says, we have to put on the Ring of Artorias, otherwise terrible things will happen. This whole cursed area underground is the entire reason why New Londo above was flooded, to seal away the four kings. The kings spawn in one after another at a rate of about 1 every 35 to 40 seconds, and all four can be present at once. Many challenge runs end here, because if you don't kill the kings fast enough, you lose. Of course, if we had great magic barrier, or any equipment with magic resistance, we would be happy, but we have nothing of the sort, so we are just cautiously optimistic. The end sections of their blades deal far more damage, but if you stay up close and personal, it's better. In this attempt, the second one spawned just before I killed the first one, which is alright, but that's why we needed to stay close. Like Nito, they have a purple magic death wave attack, which you need to unlock and start sprinting as soon as you see it. It can be impossible to judge distances in this place, with no points of reference. So my rule of thumb is, just always assume you're in range of their attacks and roll anyway. Surprisingly, we're wrapping up this boss already, because it only took a few attempts before I succeeded. All praise to the Black Knight Great Axe once again for being excellent. At +3, the damage output was more than enough for this damage check. We passed the test. I decided to upgrade the halberd next to +2. Now we're truly role-playing the life of a Black Knight, because we are heading to battle the demons. This is peak lore right here, in the demon ruins. I couldn't wait to try out the halberd, and the egg carriers were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I will say though, every time I attack these guys, I always regret it. The maggots are so hard to hit, and they're always starving. Oh, and I got infected by the egg parasite because, just for fun, no good reason, to be honest. I then went over to wake up the Ceaseless Discharge, and he's in a horrible mood today. I decided to face him in the area where the path splits up, going for the method in the tunnel round the back, where he attacks and then I can dodge to the side and attack him back. It's a pretty reliable method once you have the setup right. Ceaseless is down. Another stepping stone on our way to the bed of chaos. And yes, my head parasite is stealing half of my souls, which is why I only get 10,000 here. It also makes me weaker to fire damage, and the area we're going into is toasty. But we have Black Knight weapons, and they're strong against demons, so I just have to get them before they get me. The Demon Fire Sage is a demon, and I think I do this fight differently to most people. What is often recommended is to stay very close to it. I actually prefer to stay quite far away and rush in and out between his attack cycles. And apart from getting hit once at the start by the lunge attack and getting caught by the magic wave, I beat him quite easily, first try. Which I have to give credit once again to this beautiful egg on my head. Looks like there's another demon that dares to challenge this Black Knight. This is always a weird fight, not least because you have the privilege of fighting in about 2% of the available landmass. And this bizarre looking demon has arms and tails which continue to attack after you chop them off. Then again, as a man with a horrific head tumor wearing one shoe, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to judge. This ended up being another first attempt, which is lovely, and now I have the orange charred ring so I can skedaddle across the lava into Lost Izalith and towards the Bed of Chaos. How cool is this, by the way? As I was running down the tunnel towards the Chaos Bug in the center, I came across a drift item. This item bag was a Lloyd's talisman, which meant someone was trying to spawn a vagrant. And because I had now broken the chain by picking it up, I made sure to drop a humanity in the hopes that I could restart another attempt. And now, the demon invasion has been crushed. All that stands between us and Lord Gwyn is the 4th Lord Soul found in the Duke's archives. The crystal soldiers in this area are made of tough stuff, probably crystal, but this area in general is a step up in difficulty with a lot more ranged enemies. The good news is it's pretty direct to Seath if you know what you're doing, at least to the first encounter, and there's a crystal lizard on the way, which was kind and dropped me some twinkling titanite, the only upgrade material that I care about. The good thing about doing New Londo before this is I got the Curse Bite ring there, and I put it on here because it's very easy to get cursed in this encounter when you have no armor. It increases my curse resistance by 400%, so it's basically the perfect opportunity for this. See that? No curses. Perfect. While fighting these walking icicles, my head parasite evolved, which must mean I've collected 200,000 total souls since I was infected. Kinda cool, kinda horrifying, and now I have a worm attack that is absolutely trash. Anyway, don't worry about it, let's go deeper into the crystal caves because I need that final Lord Soul. I've always loved these caves, with invisible pathways and golden crystal golems, and apparently the most insane vagrant spawn I've ever heard of in my whole Dark Souls career. I actually spotted an evil red vagrant on the invisible platforms. And this invisible pathway is the worst one because it's not even straight. This truly is devious level design and enemy placement, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. So cool. To this day, I love finding out more about these little dudes, and they're honestly one of my favorite mechanics of all time. We have massive clamshell creatures that are full of human skulls, and they're guarding an immortality crystal.
How's it feel, Seath, to be a bitch?
Seath the Scaleless is guarding it as well. Once Seath had entered, I lured him over to his own crystal so that he breaks it with his attacks, then I can run around and get in some free damage while he has a meltdown about it. Now, Seath discovered and then progressed crystal sorcery by himself, and yet when you fight him, he only has 2 spells. Yeah, the crystal breath is cool, but I think he should have had crystal soul spears as well, at least. I kinda wish he was an expert sorcerer with really powerful enchantments. I think this fight would be a lot more dynamic. Once the fog gate is up, and the clams are therefore kept outside and out the way, this fight becomes a straightforward game of whack the tentacle. Every time you smack it, Seath will move it, and then you go and smack it again. And yeah, I'm using the Great Axe again, and it's just because I love it. That looks like a Lord Soul to me, and that's the 4th and final one. So it's time to bring all of this build up to the climax. My journey to becoming a Black Knight has been longer than I expected, but it will all be worth it once I put these souls to rest. I bet you've never seen this cutscene with a naked Egghead character before. When Gwyn ultimately linked the first flame to extend the Age of Fire, the Black Knights were burned to ashes, and now their spirits roam these stairs. I'm now descending into the Kiln of the First Flame, the final area. There's 5 unique Black Knights here, unique because they respawn, and they drop all the Black Knight weapon types. We never did get that Black Knight Greatsword, so now we can get it, and we can complete the collection. And even more importantly, we can put on the full Black Knight armor set. As I was about to put it on for the first time, I heard a faint whispering in my mind. I couldn't put on the helmet before removing my parasite. Finally, I can become the Black Knight I was destined to be. I even farmed the Black Knight shield because we're going all the way with this. Once the elite knights of Gwyn, now cursed wanderers, forever outside the cycle of rebirth. On this day, I will undo the suffering caused by Gwyn's sacrifice to the First Flame. Killing him will be a release, for him and for us. I choose to break the cycle. I choose to begin the Age of Dark.